Hello, everyone. This is Kyle with Urban Reach NYC, and I'm blessed to have my first lady at my church, at Church of God of East Flatbush, and she is currently the executive director of the Hope Center that we have in our church to do the benevolent side of our church. So we just decided to sit down and have a little conversation with her and discuss our community at the Church of God of East Flatbush and what kind of benevolence things we're doing about Hope Center. So without further ado, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself to us personally before we kind of get into the Hope Center. So let us know about your journey to here.
All right. Hey, Kyle. It is great and it's a blessing to be on here with you. It's also for us in our church an enormous, tremendous blessing having you working alongside. So, my journey basically, I was born in Jamaica, raised in London, England, got married 34 years ago to R.C. Hugh Nelson. And we lived in Tennessee for a while he was in seminary. We got called to, appointed to Ottawa, Canada, where we pastored for 8.5 years. And for the past 17 years, we have been in Brooklyn, pastoring the Church of God of East Flatbush. My journey into community and nonprofit grew out of a compassion for community that really started in Ottawa and the birth of our last child, Sigourney, and watching God blessed us through the services of a community program that we had that, I kidded my husband because when he said, let's start having a third child, my response to him was, how were we going to feed it? Well, God is always an awesome God. And so Sigourney was born. And when Sigourney was born, I found out that what God did gave me a more compassionate heart of his provision for community was at every stage of Sigourney's feed. So whether it was Enfamil back in the day or Gerber, whatever the stage was, God would provide through God would provide through the pantry that we ran. At that time, as I was in Cleveland, when we were in Cleveland and in England, my background is microbiology. And I continued that in Cleveland and then in Ottawa, working as a lab manager back then. And so what God literally did was that I could not get a job while I was here in but I could not get a job. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, I could not get a job while I was here in New York for the past 17 years. And basically, I got qualified, the state of New York. I still have my license and all of that in micro as a lab manager, but God just did not open the door. And so after much pleading and petition, God just didn't open it. And I recognized, based on what took place in Ottawa, God was now transferring me to community work. And so I became the executive director back in on or around 2004. We formally incorporated the nonprofit of the Church of God of East Flatbush in 2005, which is now, since then, has been known as the Hope Center Development Corporation. And so we've seen God move in such a tremendous way. So it's not just about food, it's about educational empowerment. So we have an educational resource center that provides tutoring for pre-GED, GED, or high school equivalency diploma. And this is taught by board certified Department of Education teachers who give up their time. We also have a computer program that teaches basic computers and helping, our community. We also have what we call Project Restoration. And although that is not moving fast right now, based on where we believe God is taking us, basically this is a program, and we do assist individuals who have been incarcerated coming back into our community, help them with job referrals or mentorship. And we also, during the summer, through one of our partnership with a global company, we're able to provide short-term what we call seminars or workshop
Right.
for financial literacy,
Yeah.
STEM, which is one of the programs that helps to identify children who are or introduce them to science, technology, engineering, and math, and kind of help to empower them in the field of going into college. And so we do a lot of those programs, like I said, during the summer for our high school children. And in addition to that, part of our biggest programs are, of course, the food pantry and soup kitchen.
Right.
And why this? Because there's a great disparity in our community, the community in which we live, whereby many of our citizens are below the poverty line. There is a food insecurity here in New York City, and especially in the East New York area. So those are some of the things, and of course, as we go along, I'll tell you a bit about how
definitely.
we have been in, some of your questions. But that's just a basic introduction of some of the things that we do here.
Yeah,
of course,
definitely.
It's much more, but
yeah.
in a nutshell.
So one of the things that kind of piqued my interest when you were talking was you said you were born in Jamaica, you went to London, England, then you went to Tennessee, and then you went to Canada, and now you're in New York City. So
That's right.
You're pretty well traveled.
Yes.
So yeah. So kind of my next
you.
question. My next question on that is like, obviously you've been a Christian, and you've been, even if you've not been like leading a nonprofit the whole time, you've always kind of been in outreach and being in Christian missions and stuff like that. So kind of explain what you've seen differently in maybe doing quote unquote urban ministry or ministry in general in Jamaica, London, Cleveland, Ottawa, and now New York City. Kind of what's the difference to you that you've seen?
Okay, so I grew up in London, England. And back in the early 70s, here was a society of immigrants coming in and trying to make a better life for themselves as well as their children. And then having educated in London, England, of course, I did not see firsthand in terms of poverty, right? But when I went to Cleveland, Tennessee, believe it or not, and you are an immigrant, you are in a different space, you are in the Church of God, you are at the Church of God headquarters. However, as an immigrant, Kyle, my husband and I did not have a green card. And I want to say to you today that some of the experiences I had in Cleveland have propelled me for today. We didn't have a green card. My husband will tell you, he worked at Lee College because we couldn't get a job at Pathway Press or any of those more glamorous places. So he worked in the canteen, in the kitchen, my English canteen, in the kitchen at Lee University, well, Lee College back in the day, washing pots. What did I do? Even though I was a graduate from the University of London, Kyle, it was a very humbling experience because I worked for 8 hours per week, $3.35 at Squire's Library, packing shelves, right? And that's 8 hours. And apart from the 8 hours, I'm not ashamed to tell you, because sometimes folks see you in here now, they don't recognize where God has taken you through in order to take you to a different place. So I would work those 8 hours. And in the meantime, during the daytime, I would go with a friend of mine who was also a Christian, and her husband was in seminary. And although I did not like it, I resented the fact that here I was as a graduate. I couldn't get employed. I was not employed to teach um, a particular subject that I was offered when I was in England to teach at Lee. I didn't get that job. So in the meantime, to make ends meet, apart from the 8 hours per week, $3.35 per hour, you know what I did? Along with that friend whose husband was in seminar, we cleaned apartment buildings.
Wow.
Kyle, we cleaned apartment buildings. Cleaned, so they had this new construction site, these new construction sites in Dalton, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend and I was a driver. We would drive early morning and we would go and clean those apartment buildings to make ends meet. That was humbling for me because coming out of the prestigious institutions that I was a part of in London, here I am as an immigrant, could not work in society. And that was what I could do until 2 years later, I got my green card. So that was the experience in the South. Now, moving to Ottawa, I didn't have, because I was on a minister's
Mm-hmm.
immigration status, you know what I mean? That kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I couldn't work. And so what I did was I worked for a call-up center that interview and employs people. So for what was supposed to have been Silicon Valley in Ottawa, they had this company, this tech company. So I would basically call and interview those people for that company. And I did that for a number of years, I think for about 4.5 years. Then I got my immigration status sorted out. And then I went into research again, which was my first love, research back in the lab. And after a year, I was promoted to the manager of the microbiology lab of this company in Ottawa. Stayed there for about 2 years and then came to New York City to
Wow.
pastor. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a journey for sure.
That's a
And that's
mouthful.
like, and especially because like you're well educated in London,
Yeah.
and then coming down to Tennessee, it's kind of like, well, it doesn't matter how educated you are, what your qualifications are, you just have to have that slip of paper to prove everything and to get
Exactly.
access. And
Exactly.
that's crazy that
Exactly.
you had to go
Yeah.
from kind of the mountaintop of education to really
Exactly.
humbly serving. And
Humbling experience. And I
yeah,
think all of this journey was part of God's plan to teach me what it was like. Because, back in the day in Cleveland, we would count the pennies to go to McDonald's.
yeah,
It was that much. You hear Bishop preach all the time about, some of the individuals who would drop an envelope behind the door just to make sure, God was just using them. But it was a humbling experience for me, for us to have gone through. But you know what, Kyle? I stand today as in gratitude, so much gratitude to God, because I see where God, back then the tears were flowing, trust me, because I couldn't understand, God, me, I have all this education. How is it and I'm doing this? But it was part of God's plan to show me what it means to be humble and to be down there in the street with people. Yes, yeah,
yeah.
it was amazing.
That's a great story and I really do appreciate how you can kind of now, looking back on that, you can kind of see God's hand on all of it, and He can kind
All
of
of it,
prepare you
yes.
for now. So, right before we get into the Hope Center and what your kind of day-to-day process is, I would love for you to explain to the people that are watching, what is the East Flatbush, Brownsville, East New York demographics, the needs, and kind of like, what is it like doing ministry in an urban context within the community that we're placed in?
Okay, in an urban context where we are, East Flatbush, East New York, Brownsville area, it's an area with high unemployment. It's an area where when you look at in this area in comparison to other community district, we recognize that we are very low down in terms of what we suffer from. So it's an area that's high with heart disease, diabetes, an area where unemployment is very high, also an area where people are in need of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But how can I give you the gospel if I am hungry? And so food insecurity in Brooklyn, in this area, is a lot of people, they have to decide, do I pay the rent, which is high, or do I purchase food? And guess what? When they do, and I have found, based on the area which I live, the I mean a big difference, that if I were to purchase orange juice in the area that I live, right? I would pay a carton of orange juice, I would pay $2.99, $2.50 on sale. You come to East New York, this area, and you're looking at $5 to $6 for the
Wow.
same brand. Why? Because EBT, which is what the government gives you to spend each month. And so a lot of the stores recognize that there is because of the food insecurity and the fact that individuals that we serve in our community, because of the health disparity, they would need more nutritious food, right?
Right.
They would need more nutritious food, which would help to undergird their health, etc. However, because of food insecurity and the need to be able to pay their rent, they can't afford this expensive food out there. So you would go and you take the soda, which, by the way, I mean, when you look at the sugar content of the soda, that's what propels the disease, etc. right here. So when you look at our area and when you look at other areas where a more affluent community, they do not have the issues that we are facing here. You look in East New York, you drive by in East New York, you see the bodegas,
Right.
and you have more bodegas. I think was doing for a grant research the other day, and you can have 10 bodegas to about 2 or 1 supermarket. What does that tell you, Carl? It tells you that it's cheap food, but it is also high in salt, it is high in sugar, and it affects our neighborhood, but that's what they can afford. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's what they can afford because A, unemployment is an issue. 2, because of their educational qualification, many don't even have a high school diploma. So they're not able to even look at jobs that are able to pay them more. And that is what the church has to come in. It's not just about supplying food, but it's about empowerment, because in this area, we need it more than ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, even for me personally, just to kind of piggyback on that, when I left my previous job and I got hired at Church of God of East Flatbush, I was in between places to live, and I was apartment hunting. But while I was apartment hunting, one of our pastor friends allowed me to stay in an apartment above his church. And I realized that when I wanted to go out and get groceries and cook and stuff like that, that the grocery stores within walking distance of me that I could actually physically carry groceries back, they were just glorified corner stores and bodegas, and there wasn't high quality meats or vegetables. It was just kind of like I was at a gas station, trying to get groceries.
Exactly.
And I was very limited in the quality of food that I could get myself. And if I wanted to get quality groceries, I would have to get on the bus for 45 minutes and go to a Target, which is 45 minutes away, or I'd have to get grocery deliveries for a lot of money.
Exactly.
And that was
and who can afford that?
It really opened up my eyes, and it was just like, man, like, I'm only here for just a little bit of time while I apartment hunt, but like that was one thing I started thinking about is, man, I need to figure out when I get a place to live, I need to make sure like I have access to quality food.
To quality food.
And thank God that I'm blessed enough to make that decision. But there's a lot of people out there that we work with on a day-to-day basis that they can't make that decision, and they
cannot.
They're stuck where they're at because I mean, rent in New York City is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, and they're NYCHA housing. They're NYCHA housing, which is the New York City Housing Authority buildings. They're in NYCHA housing, whereby, it's based on their rent. I mean, how much money that they're able to pay,
Right.
etc. And so when you look at it, and as you rightfully say, you had to take a walk in the neighborhood to understand the
Right.
scope of poverty and need that is right here. And not only the scope of poverty, but you also see the level of anxiety, the level of anger, because when people, let's face it, poverty is a demon.
Right.
And once you're in that position, you know, and you can't help yourself. You can't do better. You want to do better, but based on what you have, you walk in those bodegas and you look at the lettuce, and I mean the poor quality of it, what is being sold, and you look at the other stuff that has been there for such a long time. It is much easier to grab a sandwich, ham and cheese with a lot of salt, with white bread, because it's much cheaper in comparison to the gross, I mean, the fresh, well, it's not fresh,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean, to be
Yeah.
able to afford it.
Yeah, and it really just opened up my eyes just for the short time that I was there. I was like, man, like, this is a legit struggle to get
It is.
quality
It
food. And
is.
like, I even noticed like my energy level went down. Like, I started gaining weight, and like it affected my physical and emotional mood just because I didn't have access to quality food for that just short time. So
That's right. That's right. Good point.
so going on to that, explain to us, you explain the community, the demographics, and stuff like that. How is Hope Center on a day-to-day basis kind of meeting those needs?
Okay, so we are, in partnership with a few the major agencies in New York City that helps to fight hunger, in terms of, because of what we do in community. These agencies have come alongside us and have given us grants to be able to offer, this fresh food. So if we did not have COVID, we would have been part of a big farmers, a large farmers market that we would set up in front of Hope Center every Friday, that distributes fresh fruits and vegetables straight from our farmers in upstate and other areas would come to our community. So COVID has prevented that. However, because of our partnership, we have some small farms that deliver on Saturday mornings fresh fruits, mainly fresh produce that we're able to give. And so we get grants, and we make sure that part of the money that we get, we are purchasing a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables that we are distributing to our community. So when you look at it, and I'm sure, and you were here the other day, you see the trucks come in and the trucks deliver, and the long lines of our clients who are waiting. And so part of what we do is in fighting hunger is to make sure that when they come, we give as much as we can while supplies last of fresh fruits and vegetables. And that is a weekly distribution that we do. During COVID, we were distributing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And, God has been so faithful, but we'll talk about that later. But right now, the crucial of the matter is that we're able to do this for our community, in making sure that we can offer that.
Awesome. So, and to go on to that point, you give out food on a weekly basis, and it's fresh fruits, vegetables, or other stuff. I know I've been there before, where
meats,
you're
all
giving
kind
out,
of meats,
you're really chicken and milk and all this kind of stuff.
Yes,
So
yes. We do a cooked meal as well as pantry, but we also have a partnership with DoorDash that on a Friday morning, we deliver over 100 packages to over 100 homes, and around our area, to individuals who are shut in. Some are because of COVID, they cannot get out. So that's on a Friday morning. Then on Saturday morning, we also have a local delivery from our church of men and women who go out and deliver actually fresh deliver groceries and fresh produce to, again, homes. So in any given week, we're looking at over 150 homes in and around our areas of people who are shut in, you know, people who are seniors. I mean, we love our seniors, so we go by, you know, we do that. We even, a couple of weeks ago, the deacons of our church, they did a drive-by, and they just deliver groceries and just did a drive-by to our seniors so that, you know, they're also part of what we do.
Yeah. And when you mean drive-by, you mean like a drive-by wave, you know,
A drive-by
like,
wave, you know,
drive-by wave, drop some
yes,
stuff off.
they put down the groceries on the doorstep. They hung, and 6 feet social distancing, you know, because it is real. It is not a conspiracy. It is real, because we have members of our church who have died because of COVID. So, you know, we have to do all the practical stuff. But yeah, the delivery guys are out.
Awesome. So, and just to kind of put a bow on the food topic, explain to us, like, since COVID and since March, you guys have been able to give out, I know we posted something a little bit ago about the amount of food that was distributed and stuff like that. So can you just tell us, like, how much actually went out during this pandemic?
Yeah. Okay. So since March, we have seen our numbers. We are approaching nearly 40,000 just between March to the end of July. Okay. Close to 40,000. It's probably about 37, 38,000 people that we have served in community. And we are probably over 300,000 pounds of produce that we have delivered to people in the community. And that includes people who we've delivered to. That also includes people who come and line up, socially distanced, mask wearing. And that's another thing too. We distribute masks to our community as well during this time. Also during this time, we have resource tables. You have insurance agents and other people, census, and other people who come and table. We may have 1 or 2 resources per day, you know, I mean, of distribution that people, you know, help to, you know, overall give resources to our community. And so, you know, in any given time, we have between 400 and has been up to over 500 bodies online. Yeah. Online. So, for example, a couple Saturdays ago, we had about 500 people online waiting to get food. And then in addition to that, we have over 150 deliveries that we did between Friday and Saturday. So you're talking about close to 650 or more families. Families that we're serving. So in any given week, it's over 400 families that we have been serving, close to 500 families that we have been serving.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that is not only a pantry. We also do a soup kitchen where we hand out cooked meals to our clients, those who come. And those who were on delivery, we also send delivered meals when available from any of our sponsors to them as well.
And that's just awesome to think about, saying, like, you know, the time that we're recording this video right now is the first, you know, September 4th. And so from March 2020 to September 4th, 2020, over 300,000 pounds of food in whatever way has went out of the Hope Center, which is just amazing to think about. Over 300,000 pounds of food out to people that need it. So before we wrap up here, just for real quickly, explain some other things outside of the food distribution that Hope Center does. I know you've talked about a little bit of GED and stuff. Just highlight a few things that you guys do outside the food distribution.
Okay. We believe in ministry in an urban setting. It's not just about food, because we can give food, but you come back hungry again. So we try to be intentional in pointing our clients or those in community, those we serve, to as many resources that we can, whether it's through the mayor's initiative, the borough president initiative. We work with the government agencies, city council, to make sure that we're able, whatever resources, to make our community better. And so one may ask, well, do you only do food? Absolutely not. There are times that the prayer team from the church would be outside, and we would ask anyone, if you're in need of prayer, because this, the ultimate goal is also to do as Jesus did, to feed the hungry, but also a deliverance aspect from the chains of sin. So, at any given time, like I said, the prayer team, evangelism ministry, they're out there, could be praying. The food portion, of course, the computer portion, of course, the educational component, references. If you have a mental crisis, we're able to refer clients in our community who have mental crisis or going through a mental crisis. We're able to refer them to different organizations. We're able to enlist people for the supplemental nutrition assistance program, so they're able to, if they need extra help, that they can, listen, people want to work.
Right.
So we also offer resources that they can connect with jobs that are available. But if they cannot get, if they're not qualified enough to get the jobs that are available, we're also saying the supplemental nutrition assistance program. And by the way, that's not a lot of money. At any given time, they could be getting $100 and something per week. I had I think I must have left it in my home office, how much they get per month. It's nothing, so we're just so grateful that God has helped us to continue in an urban setting to do ministry to the least, the lost, and the left out, as well as we partner with shelters, we partner with domestic violence centers that can help people. We partner with schools. Schools have come in, have done public food drive, and come in to help. Schools have come in when we didn't have COVID, and even then, they are gathering resources, drop off, young mothers. We're able,
right.
When we have the resources, to supply them with diapers and baby wipes on all of that. So,
right.
it's a lot of things that's going on, but the need is great in our urban community.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking, one of the sayings that one of my buddy who does urban ministry in Oklahoma City, he's got this phrase that I steal all the time. And he says, we've all heard the saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he feeds himself for the rest of the life.
Yeah.
But he says sometimes you have to give somebody a fish where they're at. Sometimes you teach them how to fish, and then sometimes you have to give them fishing poles in order for them to be able to fish. So that's one thing I think you guys do very well, is you give people fish, you teach people how to fish, but you also give them fishing poles and the equipment and the tools that they need to better themselves, because sometimes we're in one of those three places at sometimes our life where we need some kind of help. So
we need some kind of push. Yes.
So before we head out, I would like for you to give you the floor on anybody that's watching this and that has been inspired by what you do, wants to get involved with what you do at the Hope Center. Can you point them to some ways of how they can get involved, either financially, or they can volunteer their finances, or they can volunteer their resources to you?
Very good. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share about our partnership, Kyle, in making a difference in New York City, making a difference in urban ministry. And I can tell you, the opportunities that God has for us here is enormous. This is a city, when you look at the borough of Queens, for example, the multiple languages that are there, this is a city. And it's good to go overseas, yes, but right here in New York City, it's a mission city. And so you can help us by visiting our website at www.hopecenterdevelopment.org, or you can drop us a line at info@hopecenterdevelopment.org. The thing about volunteering, we would love to have you come and to volunteer with us. We do give you an overview of what we require. For example, we have before COVID, we had over 100 volunteers that literally come in. Since COVID, however, because of health issues with a lot of our seniors, a lot of them are not able to come out, even though we are practicing social distance. So we're saying, I'm appealing that the need is great. If you are in the New York City area, if you are in Brooklyn, contact our offices of how you can come out and volunteer to serve our community. Guess what? I believe this is the richest harvest that the church has. Yeah. This is the richest encounter that the church has. And what a difference you and I would make if we were to be able to visit our food pantry or soup kitchen and just be that light, that flickering light, that someone can see Jesus Christ, the compassion of Jesus Christ, because compassion is all about immersing yourself in community. And this is, I believe, the greatest opportunity for the church to be immersed in community. There is a direct, you do not see over 300 people on any given day in your life, maybe. You pass them on the train, but at the food pantry, you can connect with them and immerse in community by immersing your compassion in community and serve.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, and just to piggyback on what you said on the one, like, New York City is so diverse, it's so big, and literally if you can't physically get here, you can send your finances and you can support those who are here and doing the work. And you literally can be a world missionary inside of New York City. We have over 800 different languages. The entire world is in New York City. So,
right here in New York City, and the entire world needs to hear from you. So you can support us with your finance, so that we can, so that one thing we do with finance is that it goes back into community, being able to supply the fresh fruits and vegetables, able to provide healthy meals for needy families so that they don't have to decide, do we pay the rent or do we buy healthy food? That's where you and I can come in by making a difference.
And I will say this too, you're going to be seeing a lot of her and you're going to be hearing a lot about the Hope Center. We have already been talking offline and dreaming about different things. We've even had an idea about a food truck going around.
That's right.
We're super excited about the future. You're going to see a lot of me and her working together, and I'm excited about our partnership. So I want to thank everybody for watching this. And if you want any information on Urban Reach NYC or the Hope Center, you're feel free to direct message us, send us an email, whatever you need to do, comment below, and we will be more than happy to talk to you about how you can get involved and help support what we're both doing. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you
Kyle.
next time. All right. Bye.
Urban Reach, that's what it's all about.